So this is just gonna be a short video about something really weird I encountered. I've been hard at work on my next major project for the channel, I promise, but I just couldn't help but make a quick video about this since October is the perfect time for it, and honestly, it's just so weird I have to talk about it, especially since I can't find much of anything online about this. Oh, and try to ignore my voice. I'm just getting over having laryngitis, and my voice hasn't quite recovered yet. Okay, on to the video. It all started with an old October tradition of mine, which is watching the DVD for Monsters Crash the Pajama Party. You may notice I said watching the DVD, not watching the movie, and that's because the movie itself isn't what I'm really interested in here. You see, the thing with this DVD is that it's chock full to the brim with random bonus features. There's a ton of little obscurities on here. It's everything from old shorts to footage of a haunted house ride to some low-budget 3D gimmick thing. The DVD actually comes with these crappy 3D glasses that don't even really work.
Were they too cheap to include just a little bit more paper so that you can actually wear them?
There's also a whole feature-length horror thriller called Tormented that's more than twice as long as the DVD's namesake of Monsters Crash the Pajama Party. Makes you wonder why they didn't put that on the front of the box instead. Suppose it doesn't have nearly as much ring to it though. But I digress. So you can watch a whole feature-length film on here, then next you go into seeing something like, well, this.
Cool it, baby.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. You go from a whole serious movie straight into just seeing a 3-second clip of a skeleton saying, "Cool it, baby," and then it's back to the menu. And speaking of the menu, that's what really makes this experience so exciting. The menus have no labels whatsoever, so you have no idea what you're going to see beforehand. You seriously can just cluelessly go straight from Tormented to Cool It Baby. And that's what I love so much about this disc. It's like a spooky scavenger hunt that takes you through a graveyard, into a haunted house, and into the crypt below to find all the little oddities that lie within. But enough about that, let's get into the real story here. So the other day I was indulging in this wonderful October tradition, enjoying some Pillsbury Halloween cookies and sifting through Monsters Crash the Pajama Party with a couple friends over Discord. While searching through the disc, I eventually land on one bonus feature that's a compilation of old home movies with surf rock added over top. Now there are a few of these home movies here. There's one where these guys uncover an Egyptian tomb, and one where a doctor turns himself into a monster. And at the end there's just someone's recording of kids trick-or-treating. These are all really interesting time capsules in their own right, and they're very fun to watch. But it's the first short that caught my attention the most. Right off the bat, you're shown a segment with an oddly familiar, ghoulish-looking fellow. At the time, I recall mentioning to my friend that this character bears a striking resemblance to Lon Chaney's appearance in the infamous lost film London After Midnight, even joking about how crazy it would be if we somehow stumbled upon the only surviving footage of the film in this random DVD bonus feature. We laughed, but made nothing more of it, and enjoyed the rest of our evening continuing to watch the various featurettes. However, the resemblance of the character in that short had continued to stick with me, though not nearly as much as the catchy Halloween-themed surf music that played over it. I tried Googling lyrics from the song, but to no avail. Since Google was no help, the next day I thought to consult the back of the box just in case. Alright, let's see. Gasp at horror home productions from the 1920s, 40s, and 60s as you witness London After Midnight, The Mummy, and Mr. Hyde, and more. Special bonus groovy ghouly musical accompaniment by the Chiller Theater house band, the Dead Elvi. Okay, so they're called the Dead Elvi. Well, that solves that. Oh wait, what the fuck? Did that say London After Midnight? For those unaware, London After Midnight is one of the most infamous lost silent films ever made. It starred silent horror icon Lon Chaney and was directed by Todd Browning, who would go on to direct 1931's Dracula. The last known copy of the film itself was lost in a fire in the MGM vault in 1967, though thankfully some stills as well as the full script do still survive. Because of this, we now know that the plot revolved around an investigation of the mysterious death of Londoner Roger Balfour by Lon Chaney's character Edward C. Burke. At first, the death is ruled a suicide, but 5 years later, strange figures are found inhabiting the Balfour mansion. Burke is called back into action and must disguise himself as the man in the beaver hat to uncover the truth of what happened to Roger Balfour. Okay, I don't want to get anyone too excited. After all, the box does call this a home movie, and that's certainly no Lon Chaney. What we have here clearly is not any surviving piece of London After Midnight, but rather it seems to be someone's attempt at a home recreation of the film. Again, turning to the back of the DVD case, we find that it claims the home movies in this featurette are from the 20s, 40s, and 60s. Given that the Vault Fire didn't happen until 67, technically people in any of these periods could have seen London After Midnight. Google once again offered little aid, but once I inquired in the Silent and Pre-Code Horror Facebook group, I was able to acquire a YouTube link to a significantly longer, yet somewhat lower quality upload of the London After Midnight home movie. And sadly, it also contains no spooky surf rock. What we see in the version on Monsters Crash the Pajama Party is just one scene of someone dressed as the man in the beaver hat biting the neck of a sleeping girl before vanishing into thin air as the three actors take a bow, followed by a weirdly cool-looking shot of the beaver hat man walking across a field. The version on YouTube, however, gives nearly 10 total minutes of footage. Though before we get into that new footage, I want to point out that in this upload they actually specify that this is from 1928, making this the home movie from the 20s mentioned on the back of the DVD case. More importantly, this also means that we can be pretty certain that the people in this film actually saw London After Midnight and are in some way trying to recreate it. I'm not saying I believe this is an attempt at an exact remake or anything, especially considering what's in the new footage we'll be going over in a minute. The way I picture it is more like they went to see the movie when it came out, which for the record would have been around a year or less before this home movie was made, and they thought to themselves, "Gee, that picture sure was the cat's meow, wasn't that Lon Chaney swell?" and decided to make something with an identical character. More like their version of something kind of like London After Midnight than a direct recreation of something specific. It's the most likely scenario I can think of, but comment if you disagree. Now on to that new footage. In the description of the video, they link to where they've also posted it on a website called hisroticfilms. There they've added something of a description, so I'll just read that to describe the new footage. Ahem. Home movies from the 1920s. Horror home movie. Couple sit on couch in living room. Set outside. Kiss. Woman lies down on couch. Vampire crawls through window. Bites woman's neck. Scary. Dracula. Nosferatu disappears. Man tries to revive woman. Actors bow. Ghoul. Vampire acts up for camera. Vampire is an amateur version of Lon Chaney Sr.'s vampire disguise from Todd Browning's London After Midnight, which is a lost silent horror film. This is the only moving footage of a man that looks like the man in the beaver skin hat. Couple dances kick line while man plays ukulele acting silly. Man shooting rifle. Dog in field. Pointer. Hunting. Children. Stop motion. Speed it up. Trying trick photography. Horseback riding. Young men. Monkey cleaning kitten's fur. Monkey scratches. White doves. Monkey falls. Man at window. Squirrels on tree. College campus. Playing softball. Walking on sidewalk. Train in the station. Cows on field. Chum the dog on roof. Monkey puppet. Little boy waves. Woman feeds squirrel. Eats out of her hand. People get out of car. Chum dog chained up. Wave to camera. Man sweeps. Kiss. Man tips his hat. Comes home. Big kiss and hug. Girls dance. Ragtime dancing. Fancy car. Williams College. Elaine and Andrew Marion. So despite being kind of insane, that description is mostly accurate. It seems that only the first bit actually relates to London After Midnight, and the rest is just random stuff they recorded at various points. Like just normal home movies that they happen to record on the same reel as the London After Midnight part. Hope that wasn't too much of a letdown for anyone. I was a bit disappointed myself, but regardless, I still find this footage interesting in a totally different way. Just being able to see people living their lives nearly 100 years ago is kind of incredible. There's very little footage out there of things like this. Most of what there is from the 20s is just, movies, and most of those are even lost now. By comparison, there's way fewer films of people unplanned just vibing like this. I like how you can tell by the recordings that they're the type of rich folk who would be able to afford a movie camera in the 1920s. Look at them riding around on horses, and damn, do they have a pet monkey? If anyone happens to know anything about where this film came from or who these people are, please let me know. It's such a wonderful glimpse into the way people lived back then, and that's without even mentioning the other amateur films on Monsters Crash the Pajama Party, which are really fascinating in their own right. I'd really love to know any details on why or how any of these films were made. Even if you consider it a disappointment that the majority of this home movie doesn't have to do with the lost film, it's still pretty damn incredible that we have even a minute and a half of period footage of anything to do with London After Midnight. This is most likely the only existing video recording from that period of the Man in the Beaver Hat in any form. That alone makes watching this feel pretty haunting for me. Hell, even that historic films description mentions it. And another thing to consider is that this is probably also one of the first ever fan films. It's not the very first, I checked. Apparently the first fan film was a send-up of the Our Gang shorts in 1926. But that means this was still only 2 years later, making it pretty significant in the development of that history as well as the realm of lost media. Once you think about it, it's actually a pretty strange experience to watch someone recreating a lost movie. It's like viewing a reflection of an image that you'll never see. Though I do like to stay optimistic that we'll find the genuine article one day, in the meantime we at least have the version pieced together with surviving stills and re-recorded score, as well as this bizarre little homage. At least in terms of degrees of separation, this is the closest thing we have to the actual film. In some sense, what you're seeing is like a small piece of a film that's been lost to history, as it remains reflected through the lens of some folks who must have been some of its biggest fans. Little could they have ever known their significance. Hey, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Just a little something to hold you over till my next project comes out. I'm currently in the editing process for that, but don't expect it too soon because it's the biggest thing I've done by far. Oh, and it won't have anything to do with lost silent horror movies either. So if you want, you can go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss that when it comes out. And feel free to like or leave a comment as well, and click on the screen to see my one other watchable video. Also, I highly recommend checking out the Dead Elvi. Since I started working on this, I've really been enjoying their music a lot, and I'd love to see them gain more fans. Now with all that said, I wish you all a wonderful evening and a fright-filled Halloween.